Hello everyone, this is Daniel Patrick from SibulaTech and OldRC.com, and I know it's been a while since we've had another video on vacuum forming or even RC car body video. Today's going to be a vacuum forming video, so if you're interested in new body release sort of stuff for RC bodies, this is not the video for you. I apologize. We just had a new arrival in the family on February 8th, so with the new child, things have been quite busy, and I haven't had a lot of time to get into the shop and run things, so that's been kind of hard. Plus, then haven't had time to do any sort of new videos. And this one's been one I've been wanting to do for quite a while since I did the previous video on vacuum forming platform designs for homemade machines that I think kind of suck. So let's get right into it. So like I mentioned in that previous video, I mentioned that any of the designs at home that you see that people show on YouTube tend to kind of look something similar to this, with a big perforated sheet, cookie sheet, board that has a whole bunch of holes in it, and unfortunately no way to mount the mold or form a buck to the platform, so then people struggle to get their part off their mold, which is a ridiculous design if you're struggling to get everything off. And I know there's probably a couple people that took offense to that, but well, tough, because you're not doing it a very good way, and that's my opinion and I'm sticking to it. So now I'm going to show you what we do for our machine, which of course is an industrial really type of machine design, and is not quite always appropriate for if you're at home, but maybe you'll get something out of this to improve your home machine. And I recommended it with your other one to maybe refine it if you're using that design, and put a keyhole thing in to give you some leverage when you're going to remove your part when you're done forming. That way you don't have to have a mold that's got perfect angles on it, and you could have maybe a little overhang. And you stop seeing those people who are trying to make RC car bodies, in fact, at home, not just generic vacuum forming thing. They're trying to replicate stuff like I'm doing, and they have to get a knife out and try and cut everything off because they don't have their mold fastened down to their machine, and they're wondering why they're having a whole bunch of difficulty. Well, there's one clue right there. You don't have your mold fastened down, and the guys who do it for real, that's how they do it. So let's start over here. When we first got our tooling, we had other companies running it for us, and we had a lot of problems with the environments not being very clean, so there were lots of dust on stuff. They weren't drying the plastic all the time properly, or they weren't getting the molds up to the correct temperature, so the plastic doesn't cool too quickly as the vacuums, before the vacuum even engages in some cases, just depending on the design and how hot the plastic they had at the time. So we inherited this platform design right here from those other places that did stuff for us. And this is a common design in the industry for just a quick, low-cost sort of platform vacuum forming design. If you're got a client that's really got real strict high-end value parts, you generally wouldn't probably do something like this. You probably got a more complicated system and everything. But for the lower cost stuff, you're going to do something very similar to this, and that's what they did. And it works okay, but it has a fatal flaw to it, and that is that there's not a good seal around the edges of this platform, and air can get in or out. And this is one of the boards they used at one of the first places. I mean, it's plywood, but it is really horrible texture plywood and everything, and so there's imperfections in it, and you know, stuff can get out and everything out of there. That's not real good. So our platforms have a hole in the middle, these platforms have a hole in the middle, sort of the other ones, but this one does. And then there's, of course, our molds, if you haven't seen the video, are hollow. So you bring in the air then through the center. There's a hole in the middle of the board, and it brings all the air in. You don't have the perforations along the side like that sheet I just showed you earlier. That's not how you do it in professional stuff for the most part. Anybody that knows what they're doing, they don't do it that way. So that's great. So to get this edge a little bit more sealed and a little more airtight, they put this sort of tape around it, and we've used over the years different types of tape trying to experiment. Some stuff's too tacky, leaves a lot of residue behind. Some doesn't hold very well. Some isn't really wide enough to hold very well. And the biggest problem with it, it costs a lot of money. And when it doesn't hold up, what'll happen is, in a lot of industrial machines, you have a blow-off feature that allows you to get a poof of air to help release the part from the mold when it's done forming. Depending on the PSI, or pounds per square inch you have on that, it could poof out that tape because it doesn't stick all the time real well to this wood. And then next time you go to form a part, you don't have a good vacuum seal, and it's drawing in air through here instead of up here, and now your part doesn't form correctly. Maybe it doesn't form all the way because the plastic cooled, didn't have enough time to bring in the plastic all the way because it was drawing in too much air from the side. Then when you do the blow off thing, all the air just goes out the side and it doesn't poof up the part. It is really a mess, and it costs a lot for those rolls, depending on the brand you buy and the thickness or the width that you buy. It's a consumable that you don't really need if you change your platform design. Sorry to interrupt the video real quick here. I just wanted to say, if you've watched any of our vacuum forming videos before, you'll know that we don't do any sort of Patreon thing, no donations. We don't beg for any sort of money at all because our primary business is making the RC car bodies that you see here and many others. We've a couple hundred RC car molds that we do. So that is our primary financial money that we get. But that said, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would help our brand name get out to more people so they may potentially buy some of our RC car bodies, and that allows us to afford to do more general vacuum forming videos for those people who are interested in it. So if you can, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button. Thank you. So over here is a platform design that they brand that I made my own because we didn't, for one of the places they didn't let us keep the platform when they were done. But this is for the mold plates that were done by Bowlink, a company called Bowlink that originally made these on their type of machine. And we just attach it down on here. Don't need any tape. There's some old tape around the edge we just did as a thing to maybe make it more airtight, but it isn't really needed. We sealed up around there. It was just a thing. And you can see we've let it deteriorate. Not a big deal. This works really well, but unfortunately we don't have the original metal plate for all the molds. So this is not the perfect solution for us. We went over to something like this, which is kind of a hybrid between these two then to accommodate all the molds that are mounted to a board. And they just drop down in a ring of wood and are bolted down. So this is a smaller version of the same thing. We move the feet back and forth depending on what size platform we're using. And the air just gets brought in through the center, just like that one down there. Sucks all the air out. Works really, really well. The advantage to this is that you don't need a tape around the top side here at all. When the vacuum engages, it brings that plastic down and forms a nice seal right here, in fact. And depending on how long you let the plastic cool here, it will help push it up off the mold. If you don't let it cool for a long time, it'll just bubble up here a little bit and you won't get as much, advantage out of that air pressure coming up. So that is kind of an issue you have to be aware of. There's different situations where you may not let the plastic cool as long, depending on your mold design, because if you let it cool too long, that once again makes it harder to get the part off the mold, depending on the overhangs that you have on there. So I think that takes care of that. If you're designing your own machine, this would be a really good way to go. The disadvantage of this is, of course, you have to have a board to mount all your molds to. We have some stock car body molds that we share boards between. As long as the holes for mounting don't interfere with each other, we have one board and they're numbered, and then the protective cover like you see on this one right here says look for this board to mount this mold to, and we do that so that we don't have to have it permanently mounted to a board, and we don't have to have as many boards for it. And they also take up less shelf space that way too, if it's just a mold and it doesn't have this extra board hanging off the sides of the mold and everything. But for the more popular molds that we run, we always keep a board permanently attached to it. So that's where I would say if you're doing it at home, you may not want to do this unless you have the ability to, to drill the different holes and attach different things to it. Otherwise, go back to what I was talking about with what I think is the pour design, and make a way so that you can attach stuff there using like that keyhole design. You'll save yourself a lot of headache if you do that. I hope you'll learn something from this. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I don't always get to the comments right away because I see the emails come in, but I don't have access to go to YouTube to get it. And I sometimes forget. That's actually with a lot of stuff. I sometimes see the emails come in, and then later I'm like, oh, I forgot to get to that, and it's been 2 months, and it feels too awkward to respond now at that point. But yeah, if you don't see a response from me right away, within a few days, I would say do another comment again. Don't feel bad about it. I will try and get back to you then right away and get on it and everything. But with the baby right now too, that's kind of hindered a lot of responses right now too to people's emails. It's just so many things going on. I have to admit, it's definitely a struggle with a new child. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.